Hello and welcome to another episode of Who Knew in the Moment, the podcast. I'm your host, Phil Friedrich, and today I'm honored to have Greg Fahey with me. Greg is the general manager and assistant basketball coach at Hampton men's basketball program. And one of the things I think you're going to hear in his story today is that when you follow what's most important to you and what you're passionate about, you can create a living and a career out of that. So, Greg, thanks so much for being on today.
Love it, man. Appreciate you having me. I'm excited to get rolling here and see if we can bring some value to your audience.
I have no doubt that we will. So to start your journey, you grew up in New Jersey, and early on, I would say earlier than what most people would ever think of, you began a role in a volunteer firefighter
Mm.
shop. So talk a little bit about what propelled you to go approach that at 17 years old, and some of the lessons you learned there.
No doubt. I appreciate you bringing that up. Yeah, I mean, simply my mom was going to send me to like Kentucky or something to like build houses like for the summer. And I was like, nah, I don't want to do that. Like, she's like, you need community service. My one good friend I played lacrosse with, he had like three generations of like, uncles and his dad and grandfather were all on our fire department. So we had been talking about it. And then that just propelled us to be like, yo, let's join the fire department. Why not get some community service? So that's how it started. But it was actually probably one of the best decisions of my life. Did it from when I was like 17 to 25. Wish I could have been a little more active with it after college, but pursuing coaching and not living in town anymore was hard. But I still, at an early age, you learn discipline, you learn structure, you learn chain of command, you learn the value of life, right? Like you're
Yeah.
responding to these car accidents, people are unfortunately passing away, fires, people losing their homes, and just a sense of community. And then I love being around a bunch of dudes that didn't know what basketball was, half of
Yeah.
them, right? Like, but they could rebuild an engine inside it out. So like,
Oh.
just learn from different, humans. It was great. But yeah, I think at an early age, it just showed some structure, and then I take a lot of that into what I do today. Keeping all the tools, ready to go and neat. Like, are you going to keep your gym neat? And basketball is tidy and like, presented the right way. Yeah, there's just little things. You get back from a fire, you do a debrief on the whiteboard. What could we done better? So it's kind of like a scouting report right
Yep.
afterwards. So yeah, it was a great 6 or 7, 8 years somewhere around there. And then just the camaraderie. So it was awesome. It was awesome. I really, really enjoyed my time doing it.
Yes. Now, speaking of camaraderie, as you go off to college, you end up going to a social event one evening and run into
hmm
somebody that says, "Hey, maybe you should think about helping out with the men's basketball program." So, talk a little bit about where you decided to go to college, what propelled you to go there, and then getting started with assisting on the team.
Yeah, yeah. So I went to Marist College, had some friends up there, just loved the campus. And when I was in high school, I played basketball, ran cross country, played lacrosse, did the firefighting stuff, and then I was also in the marching band for a little bit of time. So I just was always on the run. And then I got to college, and I was like, wait, like I just go to class twice a day, and that's it. So like you're an active guy, you do a lot, right?
Yeah.
You probably don't have a lot of idle time. So I had a ton of idle time, and I was like, what am I supposed to do with this? So, yeah, I was out one night, just started talking to a guy. He's like, hey, you should come by, check this out, boom, boom. And then just went one day and then just kept going. And it led to, being a manager for 4 years. I didn't really even know coaches, like it was a profession or it was like this big thing or you could even get paid. I was just kind of like, this is crazy. Like you could do this. This doesn't feel like work. Because I went into to college wanting to go like into the CIA and whatnot. So, but then like junior year, I kind of shifted and was like, all right, I think I'm going to pursue this coaching thing. So that's kind of how I got started, and just kept showing up and really enjoyed it.
I love it. Now, while you're doing that on the East Coast, St. Benedict's Prep is a very well-known high school program, produced a lot of great Division I talented players, even NBA players. So talk a
Yeah.
little about how you end up getting connected in there and then your journey to start coaching with St. Benedict's.
Yeah, yeah. Got connected through one of our former players at Marist, Danell Alexis. He knew one of the assistants there, Art Pearson, and then who knew the head coach, Mark Taylor. So when I came out of college, I was a manager. I didn't play college basketball, so I was very aware, and I don't know how I was aware of this, but I was aware of like if I want to get to my goal, I got to be different
Mm,
And for me, I didn't want to go and be a GA right away. I didn't want to be a director of ops right away. I wanted to get around high level talent as soon as possible and as much as possible because I didn't want to be like 29 and I was a video coordinator for 2 years, a GA for 2 years, a special assistant for 2 years, ops for 2 years, and now I'm 29. I've never recruited before. I've never coached AAU before. I have no recruiting ties, and I won't get bumped up. That was my thought process coming out of college. So when St. Benedict's came, I had like two other ops jobs that were on the table, but I chose St. Benedict's because I knew I could get around high level talent. So that's the route I chose, and just tried to immerse myself where I grew up in the New Jersey high school basketball landscape, which led to an opportunity to coach AAU at the City Rocks. So got on the EYBL.
yeah.
And then I knew once I went to college, I would have at least two buckets to pull players from because I just think that that's the most important thing, or one of the most important things in college basketball is to, have connections to get guys.
Absolutely. Now, I want to kind of highlight that your thought process on the journey, because I think so
Hmm.
many people see Greg's title today and are like, man, I want to be that guy, right? And
Hmm.
it's like, but if we lay out the story as we will, I think there's going to be a lot of people that say, "Oh my gosh, I don't know if I'd want to do all these different steps to, to get to that role." I don't know what you got compensated to coach, high school basketball,
It's
but
like yeah, like 3 grand, I think. Like, and
I
I
can't
was, yeah,
imagine it was a great payday. And
mm-mm.
so, there's sacrifices that I'm sure you had to make that possible and to have that happen. So, talk a little about, I almost want to say like this humble confidence of I'm just wanting to be a student. I'm not worried about what my title is or
Yeah.
where this is going to lead me next year. I know I'm laying the groundwork for where I would want to be 10 years, 15 years, 29-year-old Greg.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point. I think it just starts with your goal and then reverse engineering. Like, right, do your homework on who is where you are now, how'd they get there, what you're alluding to. Like, this is the journey that I took, and then have a plan in place. Because if you don't have a plan and you're not tactical about it, and be tactically genuine. Don't be like
Yeah.
so tactical that you're not genuine, right? Be tactically genuine, have patience. I was at the high school level for 3 years, making 3 grand a year. I shined shoes at Baltusrol Golf Course, and like I loved it because I got in at 6, I was done at 2. They gave me breakfast and lunch. I made my money, and I was at St. Benedict's by 2:30. It was a 20-minute drive from where I worked. Then I taught in a school. Same thing. I was out by 2, plowed snow, right? Like a lot of coaches do that, but like all those like bad jobs aren't really bad jobs. You don't think of it as bad jobs because you got an end goal in sight,
Yeah.
right? So for me, I think that was important to have an end goal in sight. And then each step of the way, like then I moved to Division 3. I'm making 5 grand a year, and I'm living in a house with 5 of my friends in Morristown, which like I loved, and I prioritized, doing stuff like that. And at 27 years old, I took a GA spot. Didn't make any money. My mom paid like my health insurance because she knew I probably wouldn't pay it. So it's just part of the journey. And yeah, like you might see with someone and you might not understand how they got there, but you can go through a lot of stuff if you have a plan. I was fortunate, obviously, like, to be able to do it. And but if you have a plan in place, like you can get through a bunch of things that you might not be able to get through.
I love it. Now, you mentioned you end up deciding, hey, it's time to progress on from the high school ranks to the college
Hmm.
ranks. And, there's a multitude of opinions on what the right move is depending on the job you want, right? Some people say, hey,
Yeah.
get the highest level of, coaching experience you can, even if that means
Yeah.
starting at a D3 in NAIA school, that'll open collegiate doors. Other people say, hey, if you're with a powerhouse high school program, maybe go with that until you can get the D1 offer that you're, looking for, or the foot in the door there. So talk a little about making that decision to enter into the college realm and why you did it at that point in time.
Sure, yeah. I always say I think you don't want to stay 1 year, right? There's no consistency. 2 years is solid. And I just feel like 3 turns to 5 real quick, 5 turns to 7 even faster, and then you blink and 7 is at 10, right? So I
Yep.
just felt as though 3 years was like you can establish yourself somewhere at 3 years and leave and still have those roots because
Yeah.
you've been there 3 years, right? So I just felt as though 3 years, we had won like 90 games in 3 years. We just came off like a 35-2 season, Geico Nationals, all that type of jazz. So, and I wanted to just get around college basketball, but I didn't want to. I wanted to do it in New Jersey and still be able to coach the EYBL.
Yes.
So, but I felt as though Division 3 was the right level because there's not a lot of rules in D3. You can go out more than Division 1 guys, right? So like now, all of a sudden these all these college coaches the last 3 years knew me as a St. Benedict's coach, Jersey guy, and I just started on the EYBL, and now I'm coaching Division 3. So now when I go out to Roselle Catholic versus St. Benedict's game, and I'm sitting with my FDU polo on, well now you can bring value, and these coaches want to sit next to you. Hey, what's going on with this kid with the City Rocks? Hey, what's going on with
Yeah.
this kid at St. Benedict's? Right? Boom, 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 boom. And my head coach at FDU was so cool. He would like, they gave me autonomy to be myself, go recruit whoever I wanted. So I essentially was able to use that vehicle to network again. And then obviously you want to be stamped as a college coach, right? Like you
Yep.
won't want someone to say you haven't done a scouting report. If you get a college job at any level, there was a process. You applied, there was other candidates, there was an interview. He picked you. High
Yep.
school, like there's 12 assistants behind the bench, right? Like
Yeah.
it's what it is. Like and I love it, no problem. But that was kind of my mindset of like, hey, the next step, I need to be stamped a little bit. I got to understand how admissions works. I got to understand that type of all the intricacies in and out. And then being Division 3, I knew I was able to still coach AAU. So that was huge for me. And then I could just get in the trenches more with the players from New Jersey.
Absolutely. Now, FDU wasn't a extremely long run. You end up making the jump to Providence not too long after in our side or alongside Coach Ed Cooley. So, talk a little bit about how the connection into Providence happened and what motivated you to make that leap.
Yeah, so after FDU, I took a high school job for about like 2 months, 3 months. Took the job, was ready to flip it, and then had a couple guys ready to come, and the school didn't accept them for some grades, even though they had a 3.5. But they deemed it like, oh, that's not high enough for us because we're a private school. I said, okay, no problem, and that just kind of sat in the back of my mind because they kind of said something else, and then I got word that Providence was going to have a GA spot through the City Rock connection,
Yep.
right? And the City Rocks basically put a word in for me and went up there, interviewed, and like 2 or 3 weeks later, so they said yes, and it was kind of just like that. And then I resigned from the high school and went up there, and that was an unbelievable opportunity to start your Division 1 tenure in the Big East. And Coach Cooley gave me my first opportunity in Division 1, which was massive.
Yeah. So, talk about, one of the benefits of like the NAI D3 route is limited resources,
Yep, yep,
maximum basketball talk, right? All those things.
yep,
Then all of a sudden you jump into the Big East, and obviously there's levels to this thing, right? I mean,
yeah,
UConn's in their own world, and there's other programs, but all of a sudden resources are much more plentiful, and you're doing completely new types of scouts, and prepar. I'm imagining preparation has different levels of
sure,
expectations. So talk about like the quick assimilation into a new environment, right? I
yeah.
think for so many people, we can get stuck in our ways, or this is how I've done, or this is what I was taught. And my guess is you probably came in with a relatively open mind of, hey, teach me,
Yeah.
I'm here to learn.
Yeah, I'm still like every time I take a job, my last couple bosses are like, you gonna speak today? Like, you gonna speak? Like, cause I'm like from an area where like, hey, you talk too much, like, or something might happen. So like, I'm a big believer of like, you get a new job and you shut up for 3 to 6 months
Yeah.
because people will tell you what they like, what they don't like and you just have to listen actively, right? So like
Yeah.
I that's any job I went into, and Providence especially was my first time Division 1. So like the Uncrustables need to be filled, cool. Like I'm filling the fridge with the Uncrustables. Pistachios need to be filled, I'm filling that up. Gatorade needs to be brought in, cool. And then yeah, I worked with Coach Blaney with scouts, and he taught me a lot about like presenting a scout, how to tell a story, how to grab the player's attention, this clip over here, that clip over there. Learned from probably one of the best scout guys in the Big East in him, which was awesome. I just think when you go in, you can't be like, oh, I did it this way, I did it that way. Especially as a young dude, you got to be like, I'm just gonna shut up and listen for 6 months. I mean, maybe that's drastic, maybe 3 months, but I think that was important. But in adjusting to environments, I think is kind of what you're alluding to.
Yeah.
I think when how to adjust to an environment is definitely listening, and then just kind of be the first one in, last one out. I know that's cliche, but like, be around as much as you can, say yes to everything, and also get settled in your personal life. We don't make a ton of money, but something as simple as getting a nice TV in your room or a comfortable mattress, right? Like to also have like a space where like you go back and it's like, okay, like I can decompress here for the hour I get, or you're not home a lot. I lived walking distance to the facility, but I think just adjusting to a new area, find a good barber. I love pizza. Find a good pizza joint, right? Like
Yeah.
get your spots intact. That's the personal side, and then on the professional side, just make sure you just listen, and then be able to apply what you're hearing
Yeah.
and have the ability to get shit done.
I love it. Now, something that I think is super interesting, and we're talking about in the scope of basketball coaching, but someone listening right now runs a business. Someone listening right
Sure.
now, is running their household, right? And I think something that's really um, evident in your life is one, you're willing to be taught, but two, then you become a combination of everything that you've learned, right? So
Mm.
Greg's coaching style is not just replicating Ed, right? It's, well,
Right.
I've seen all these different coaches at St. Benedict's, at FDU, at Georgetown, right? And that eventually we get Greg and how Greg operates. So talk a little about how you kind of sift through seeing how other people do things and saying, all right, that's really good. I just don't think it's for me. And all right,
Mhm.
that's really good. How can I, kind of take that and incorporate that into my style?
Yeah, I write everything down. I write a ton. I got like like a bunch of notebooks. So that's my process. And then I also kind of watch how people like carry themselves, and I'm also interested like what you just said about a business. Like I always say I'm a guy that coaches basketball. I'm not a college basketball coach, right?
Yeah.
Because I have like other interests, and I want your son to be around me and like ask about maybe I don't know, this book or golfing or like fashion, whatever they're into, music, right? Like let's
Yeah.
talk about different stuff. Let's not just walk down the hallway and be like, hey, nice screen the other day, like
Yeah.
so like learning from others, I write a ton of stuff down and then review it. Okay, I like that. I didn't like this. I could do this better. I could do that better. Ask questions. So like ask questions. Hey, why'd you do this? What do you think of that? How do you
Yep.
think of this? Boom, boom, boom. And then I've been fortunate. Coach Taylor is probably a top five high school basketball coach in the state of New Jersey. So like what I learned from him, okay, I learned a lot of basketball, just fundamental drills, right? How to teach different things, learn different recruiting connections. Then I go to FDU, and Pete is such a giver, learn how to, treat people. Then I go to Providence. Cooley is the ultimate people person, ultimate, just unbelievable human being. So I learned, great fundraiser, great coach, like everything, great businessman, right? So I learned all that stuff in there. Then I go to Siena. Coach Carm is super diligent and organized. So I learned how to run a program from an organizational standpoint. Then I go back to Georgetown. We're like a startup company, and I got a first class education because my position at Georgetown wasn't glorious. I'll be the first to say I didn't know basketball at Georgetown. I was Cooley special assistant. I picked them up every morning. I dropped them off every night. I went to like every NIL event with them, and I just got to listen, write stuff down, meet other people. So just taking that all in, and now I work for Coach Thomas, who is a stickler with time. Time is the most important thing. He's up at 4 a.m. learning about what grind can you get done in the mornings. He gives like Coach Cooley too and him, but they give you autonomy to be yourself in a business that really doesn't want to be yourself sometimes.
Yeah.
Like others don't want you to be yourself in this business at times. So I know I got the best boss. It's probably my best boss that I'll have in my career, honestly. That's just how it is. And now that's cool, no problem. But I want to do a great job for him, so we could be successful. So that's just taking all of that because there's so many different ways to win in business and in life.
Yep.
Some dudes want to stay in the office till midnight every day and they win. Other dudes think it's 2025. We have an iPhone. Google is a multi-billion-dollar company and they can run it with employees working 9 to 5. How come we can't run games 9 to 5? Everyone's different, right?
Yep.
Um, but people's jobs are on the line of winning and losing. So you can't judge how a man does it. So just taking, that's my long-winded answer for you, but
I,
taking it.
I love it. Now, as you've, seen throughout your career, to that comment of, hey, wins and losses are what makes and breaks,
Yeah,
tenure, right? That's always probably something in the back of the mind of a coaching staff, right? Is like,
sure.
hey, it's year three, like we probably got to be, moving this direction. How do you block out the noise for yourself and for the players so that way you can stay focused on the mission and not allow yourselves to get, sidetracked on that question mark?
That's a good point, but I've never really thought about that just because we come to Siena and you know we win the league back to back times, right? And so like I never really was in that position. And then, the next year we win, I think 17 games. The following year we win 17 games, beat Florida State, beat St. Bonnie's. Then I go to Georgetown. It's year one. People know it's, starting up. Okay,
Yeah.
boom. Then I come to Hampton. It's year one. We do win 17 games from 8 last year. So I haven't necessarily been in that spot yet, where I would be like, oh man, this is year three. But I think maybe I just focus on each day getting
Yep.
better. However, like the old saying in this business, right? Everybody gets fired at some point, right? So like I can imagine the pressure of a year three, year four, and you got two kids that you're coming home to dinner with, looking them in the eyes. Are we going to win? Are we not going to? But I also think that's where coaches need to get pour into themselves a little bit
Yeah.
and have a secondary skill set too. I think like we're so locked in on our goals and our dreams that sometimes we don't know anything but basketball. So like
Yeah.
when that donor comes in the gym, are you engaging with him, following up with him, being genuine with him? And he's got a big insurance firm. So if you ever get clipped, maybe you got a job with the insurance agency, right? Like I think as a coach, we got to do more of that where it's like, it's not the priority because you're winning and those kids are your priority. But in the back of your mind, you got to protect yourself because assistant coaches don't have 5-year deals. You're year to year,
Yep.
you know? So
Yeah. So with that, and kind of thinking about, your time at Siena and being a really strong program, and then making the jump, was that a one to get back towards, one of the major, Power Four conferences? Was that a just such a close connection with Coach Cooley? Kind of talk
yep.
about leaving that because I think a lot of people might be like, man, I got a great spot here at Siena. Like to your point, hey, we've done this back to back to back years. Like we're in a great position to be as here as a staff for a long time.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Yeah, I think a little bit goes back to how I said, 3 turns to five, 5 turns to
Yeah.
seven, and 7 turns to 10 quick. So I was in that, just finished that year four. I also like got a lot of love for Albany, but as a younger single dude, I hated living there. There was nothing to really do. So when you told me Georgetown, DC, that really attracted me. And then just Coach Cooley, that he allows people to be themselves. So like working for Coach Cooley was a no-brainer for me. Being able to help him revitalize a national brand, AI, it wasn't really much of a thought for me because some
Yeah.
people do. You are right. Some people like, oh, you're going off the road to a non-road spot, like entry level spot, da da da.
Yeah.
But he also, when we talked about the job, it was like I need somebody that can, help me wrap up my arm around this community and the donors and walk into different rooms and be able to engage. And that attracted to me because at that point, NIL was what, like a year-ish, two-ish old. So
Yep.
I knew, okay, the game is going towards money. Georgetown's a powerful brand. There's a ton of money in the Big East. If I can just be around the money for a year or two, then I can gain that knowledge and then go back to being assistant. And now you and me could YouTube plays, right? We can
Yep.
Google plays and have a playbook tomorrow if we wanted to. ChatGPT, give me every zone play. Like boom,
Yeah.
we could do that. It's not that easy, I'm saying, but it is access wise easy. But you can't Google emotional intelligence, engaging with donor, where does the money go? How do they get it? Da, 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 da. So just being able to understand that. And I think that year, again, that year I wrote everything down I converted it into a blueprint. I gave it to him when I left, Coach Cooley, like everything I learned. Like I think that's one of the most important years. Every year is important, but that was one of the most important years of my career in regards to learning where this game is going to go.
Yeah. So talking about NIL, right? I mean, it's the wild, wild west. I mean,
Yep.
it's here and it's highly relevant. So, when you're looking at this, there's the talk of the universities, there's the talk of collectives, then, there's the unsigned contracts with players, right? Hey, they're
Yep.
telling you they got an offer from somewhere, and you either need to make a competitive offer or
Right.
say, I'm going to call your bluff, and if you got it,
That's
go
it.
walk and take
Go
it.
do your
So,
thing. Yep.
talk a little bit about, the relationship side of it, because that's obviously how you've built up your career is, the
Hmm.
relationship with the players. But then also there does become a money aspect, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, you can have a great relationship with someone, but a $500,000 difference is that's real money.
Yeah, relationships are always going to matter, but like I was recruiting a kid this year and I knew his agent since I was my first year at Benedict, so like probably like 14 years. I knew his former AAU coach, so I'll be at his wedding, next year and like we were right there in another school, like not like a powerhouse school, just another school our level ish offered 60K more and he went there, right? Like so like it does the relationship still matter? Sure to get him there, but you still got to have the resources. I think if you have the resources, the relationship that matters the most is retaining your own guys. I don't
Yeah.
think it's talked about enough. I think the best programs do that at a high level. You have to have the money to do that. But maybe a relationship. Maybe instead of going and taking 400 grand from a A10 school, they stay for 200 grand or 250. Maybe it can get you 100, 150 because of the freedom, but
Yep.
it's never a relationship's not going to trump $500,000. And you can't ask a kid to, to pass that up. So I think your relationships still have to be strong to get in the mix with players,
Yeah.
and then your relationships have to be stronger now with agents,
Mm.
right? So
Hmm.
you gotta, like you said, is your relationship strong enough with that agent where he's gonna tell you the truth, or is
Yep.
he gonna say, "Yeah, I got this school offering this, so you either gotta da da da." And then do you have another relationship with another agent who has a guy that's getting recruited by the same school that can say, "No, they offered my guy this. That market value doesn't add up. It's $300,000 difference. I think, gee, it's more about he's getting this." And now you can attach a market value on what that guy's saying.
I love it. The game within the game. So,
Game, yep, like the game is the game. That's my one of my best friend Matty K always says, the game is the game.
So for you guys, as you're evaluating this, once again, if money was infinite, well, you could offer as much
Hmm.
as you wanted to every player, and life would be great.
No doubt.
Unfortunately, money is finite, and I know every program's a little bit different. But when you were starting with Georgetown, there, I mean, is it, hey, we are, you know, giving a certain amount based on like age or level? Is it based on, hey, we have a certain amount that we want to give to current players, and then this is what's left to go find, new talent? Or what were you kind of learning in the NIL, space while you were at Georgetown in those early years of NIL and your, close exposure to it?
Yep. You know what? The numbers wise, I had came like later. Like I came in like May. So they had signed most of the team
Yeah,
by then. So like I wasn't in the war room strategy wise for that. And then I left in March, right? So I didn't get that other, exposure in regards to like, what's this, what's that. I think they were just, we were trying to fill a roster there. So that's, you're gonna it's gonna be hard to fill 12 spots, right?
yep,
So I can't speak to exact strategy. I was more so with him in regards to like, board of trustee meetings, donor meetings, head of the collective meetings, like stuff like that in that space. And when you talk about that space, you talk about, retention. And if you want to be good, you got to pay now, right?
yeah,
Other teams are doing this. If you want to do that, we got to be at this. Like, so more so that. But I can understand what you're saying. Like, the strategy, it's kind of like now if a donor, like donors are like, oh, we want them to graduate, right? A lot of donors will say that. Okay, if you want a kid to come to your university, especially at a lower mid-major,
yeah,
you're going to have to overpay, right? Because like, okay, freshman year, we have the leverage. But if he averages 8 points, 9 points, 10 points or more, Now, if it's 8 to 10, you got a good shot of them staying, but they still got the leverage. Okay, now sophomore or going into junior sophomore year, they average 12, 12 and 5. That can get you two, 300 on the open market, right?
Yep.
Like so now if you're a donor, okay, you want them to stay. Well, we can't offer 30,
Right.
20, like this kid can change his life. So I think that's the strategy now is retention and trying to figure out how do you keep these guys and because it's just interesting. I look back to college. I was thinking about this last night. I'm like, I was watching something and I was like, damn, like I don't know how many dudes are gonna go, and I don't know how you feel about this, but like, you look back at college, oh, you had 4 years, yeah, these are my boys, my friends, I still talk to them, I'll go back, da da da. And I'm like, how many guys like really like care about that anymore? Are they gonna go
Right.
back to a school? Like these guys love to work out in the summer. Where is home base?
Yeah.
Like I don't know. Maybe it doesn't matter if you can collect $4 million. I get that too, but I'm just like now it's kind of like okay, can you make the right two moves? Can you transfer once? Go here 1, 2 years, go here 2 years, and come out with a couple mil.
Yep.
Um, it's just interesting, man. Just having no pride or allegiance to a school when you're 56.
Right.
Coming
Yeah.
back.
Well, and you're spot on. And, me being in Omaha, Big East country of,
Yeah,
Creighton, right?
Creighton. Yep,
They just had Ryan Kalkbrenner get drafted and graduate.
yep,
And, Coach McDermott has just said so many times, like, it's such a unique experience to have him be with the program through the entirety. And, Ryan got asked that question, why didn't you leave? And he goes, what do you mean? Like, I was playing on an
yeah,
amazing team. Yeah, maybe I could have found more money, but there was something special going on, here relationship wise. And so I think to your point, that's becoming a unique characteristic. Whereas, yeah, I always think back to the Florida days where, Joakim Noah and Al Horford, Brewer all decided to come back and they say, oh, yeah, like let's run it back, even though they could have independently gone pro. They wanted to go ahead and get a, repeat of the national championship.
yep, 100%. You could have went like, yeah, like. Yeah, and now he can come back there for life and have it rolled out for him.
Yep.
I don't know. I know I'm in I don't know. Like, if you're able to have that, like I just think it just goes a long way.
Yep. Absolutely. Well, good. Well, last then, let's talk about how we end up at Hampton and what prompted you to step away from Georgetown over to Hampton and talk about your role there now.
Yeah, like I said before, I got the best boss in college basketball. We've been close for 7 or 8 years now since I was a GA at Providence. So when he got the job, he asked me to come, with him, and he gave me an unbelievable, opportunity in regards to the title and um, describe the job to kind of still do our NIL here and be able to coach. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. I still do the scouts, I still in practice and all that stuff, but I also do, help him with our NIL and, the point man with all the agents and whatnot. So I can dip into both buckets. So the only reason I came to Hampton is for Coach Thomas. That's the only reason I came to Hampton. The CAA is a great league. I like the league. I'm a Northeast guy, so I'd rather go north than go back down south. But the fact that, I trusted him, I believed in him. I knew give me the autonomy and the freedom to be myself. And he hired a great staff around us. I really enjoy working with those guys. And I just think, I knew when we came here we were going to get it done. So, and listen, like Georgetown's great, but I wasn't in a coaching role, right? So like
Yeah.
stay there and like you get the player edition Jordans and you travel on private planes and all that's amazing, but like eventually it's going to stall out and you take a deep breath, step back. Okay, what's really the best decision for your career? It was this, it was this. Um, so really just buying into him
Yeah.
and coming down here to try to get this thing flipped back around.
I love it. Well, one thing I don't want to overlook, and I think, you can speak to it really well, is every day you're doing something and essentially you are interviewing for the next job, right?
Yep.
And I think too frequently people just look at it as, oh, it's Tuesday, whatever, I'll see what I get done today. And it's like, well, if you impress people along the way, when that
Yep.
job comes up, they're like, man, I think of Greg. I want him to come be a part of the staff, right? I'm sure
Yeah.
there's plenty of other people that, the coaches you've been a part of their staff of along the way have had on staff at some point that they go, I would never hire that person again. When,
Right, right,
when I
right.
get my next opportunity and I need that role filled, they are not even coming to mind. Whereas for you, you've had multiple times now where it's like, ooh, that next opportunity came, and hey, I think Greg would be a great fit. And my guess is, once again, it's because of how you carry yourself day in and day out. So talk about that. Give a word of encouragement to someone that's like, man, I don't even know if I'm feeling seen in my workplace right now, or I don't know that if it matters. And it's like every day does matter. You're just not sure when or for what opportunity you're consistently interviewing for.
Yeah, yeah, 100%, man. Every day matters, and you got to try to provide as much value as you can to someone. That could be just like listening to them. That could be like, taking them to the airport, whatever it may be, figure that out. But then also you have to eventually figure out who you're connecting with at a higher level, right? Like, okay, I'm at my job and there's 12 people on staff and I'm good with everybody, but this one dude I really connect with. Like we both like this team, we're both from this area, whatever it is. And then you got to figure out ways to triple down on that. Like the relationship with Coach Thomas didn't just like happen overnight. Like I used to drive from Siena to Providence at least 4 times a year. Sometimes like just put the hotel on my credit card and figure out the bill at the end of the month, right? Like, but I would make it a point. I would go to a game, at least once a year. Try to go to practice in the fall, try to go out like in the spring or the summer, golf with them and have a dinner with them. But that was also because like we enjoyed, like we had a friendship, right? So,
Yep.
but I think it was also, hey, I see that this guy wants to be a head coach. We vibe well. Um, we're connected, and I like his vision of where he wants to go. So let me try to build a relationship. So if it happens, so I think like if you're in a place of work right now and you're connected with somebody, try to triple down on that relationship. And it's got to be genuine and authentic. He would hit me up, say, "Yo, come up this weekend," boom, boom, right? So it's got to be genuine. But people are always watching, and it matters how you walk, how you carry yourself. People around campus are going to tell your boss, like, "Oh, so and so was just Phil was just in here." The head coach might walk in the cafeteria. "Oh, hey, coach, yeah, I just saw one of your staff members in here. He had a great conversation. He always nice with. Oh, who is that? Oh, that's Phil. Oh, Phil, okay." Now that's the cafeteria. Then he gets it from the library. Then he gets it. So now it starts resonating,
Yeah.
what you're doing around campus. So at the end of the day, you just got to treat people with respect. Treat everybody with respect, and it will come full circle. But you got to definitely carry yourself, in a way that you might be working at FDU Forum like I am, but the ultimate goal is to, be high major, right? So carry yourself like that, and then opportunities will come back full circle too. Sometimes those jobs you left, they're going to be open at a higher level position,
Yep.
and you might get a call.
I love it. Well, Greg, we could talk all day. I know you got things to get done, so I want to say thank you for sharing your journey. I'm excited to continue to watch it, and we'll have to do this again in 2 or 3 years and see where the road's taking you at that point.
No doubt. I appreciate you having me, man. I want to shout out your vest too. Sharp dressed guy right here. Got to shout that out of respect. I love it. So, no, I appreciate you, man, for sure. Thank you for having me.